Hello, my name is Rebecca W. Martin. I'm an author and an editor, and this is 5-Minute Poetry. I've had this idea for a long time. I've loved poetry for many years, probably since I first memorized a poem called The Cow by Robert Louis Stevenson back when I was 6 or 7. And I find it really sad whenever people tell me that they hate poetry or they hate studying poetry, because I think a lot of the blame there lies with how they were taught poetry. And maybe you're one of those people that just has never really been able to enjoy poetry. So what I want to do here in this little series is just to share some of my favorite poems and use them as a little bit of a gateway for you as we get into maybe learning a little bit more about poetry, but mostly learning to appreciate it. Because the gift of poetry is that it's an emotion. It's more of a painting than it is a movie. We expect movies to really be immersive, to pull us in, tell us a story, all of that. But when we look at a painting, especially one of the great, beautiful paintings of the masters, maybe on the wall of a museum, we're pulled into an image, and that single image manages to express so much. Even though it's static, even though it's captured within a frame, it still gives us a sense of what the artist was thinking, what they were feeling when they were painting, and really what they intended by that painting. And I think poetry has a very similar experience, and it takes a little bit of practice to experience poetry the way that it does to experience art, but that's something I hope I'm going to be able to help you do. Forgive the light and shadow here. I just decided to do this on a whim on my back patio, so have a little bit of dappled shade going on here. That's a different poem we'll do at some point, Dappled Things. But yeah, so this is your invitation into poetry. I'm going to talk a little bit about the poet and about the particular poem. And this is not academic or really a deep dive at all. This is just me sharing my experience of the poem, and hopefully then inviting you into the experience of the poem as well. Today's poem is If by Rudyard Kipling. Is a famous British poet who wrote both in India and in England during the English colonization of India. And I love Kipling's poems because he has a very down-to-earth style, sort of a friend-to-friend kind of conversation. He always has a little bit of humor in there, either in the words that he uses or the topic of his poems. You probably know Kipling from The Jungle Book, which is one of his favorite works, of course immortalized by Disney. Really good. Highly recommend actually reading the original. But this is one of my favorite Kipling poems because I've always found it super inspiring, because it captures that question of how we live our lives. And it captures an invitation into virtue, into balance. Because what he's challenging us to do is stay in the middle between two extremes. If you can do this, but not that, if you can live in the middle, if you can live really in that call to virtue, then you have a life well lived. And then you have the fullness of Christian maturity, and you have this sense of, you own the world, you own your life because you've achieved this virtuous balance. So I'm excited to share this one with you today. I recommend reading as much of Kipling's poetry as you can and enjoy. I think his stuff is amazing, and I'm excited to share this one with you. If by Rudyard Kipling. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to, broken, and stoop and build 'em up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss and lose, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on, when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. And, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. So here's just a few questions for you about that poem. Something for you to kind of think about, see if any of this resonates with you, and then maybe go back, listen to it again, or read the words. I've linked the poem below. Sometimes if you're more of a visual than an auditory learner, that might help as well, just reading it instead of just hearing me say it. So think about these things. Maybe go back, read it, or listen to it one or two more times, and see really what emotions the poem brings up in you. Do you find it inspiring? Do you find it intimidating? Do you find it, too complicated, too easy? Just kind of, again, just reflect with it, and leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought.